Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Strategy Game Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Shippey, and today we're talking about another weed in the way. If you've missed the episodes in this series, this is a part of my book, Seen, Known, and Heard, and it's also in the workbook form so that you can really process and work through all of your weeds in the way, we call them, like bitterness, anger, control, unforgiveness, all these things that can trip us up and stop us or prevent us or block us from running our race well, operating in our purpose, reaching our business and life goals, right? And so this isn't just self-help. This is like heart posture work, I call it. So I think that really our heart postures matter, especially now as we're in, just look at the state of the world, right? Look at all the turmoil we have around us. Look at all the shaking we have. What we can control is our own heart posture and working on that, and getting it to a place where it is healthy enough that we have margin, that we have space to be able to process things, that we can stay focused wherever we're put, wherever we're supposed to be at the moment. And so that's why we're taking some time to zoom out and look at these weeds in the way. So this one, weed number 4, is called bitterness. And I'm just going to read this part from the workbook, and then we're going to go through a couple questions for reflection here. And feel free to jot down some notes, whether it's a note in your phone or you've got a journal handy. It's always helpful, I find, when I write. Michael Hyatt always says, when we write, we get clear. And I couldn't believe that more. I feel like, and sometimes I hold out from writing and I'm like, why am I doing that? Because then I feel like I'm kind of almost clogged in my mind. But then when I start writing down, I get really clear. So I would encourage you as we go through these weeds in the way to make some space to have a piece of paper nearby. So let's dive into bitterness. It says bitterness or resentment is anger compounded over time. We know the power of compounding when it comes to our finances, but this is actually in a negative sense. This is anger built up over time. So bitter roots run deep, and bitterness doesn't just happen on the first offense. It simmers slowly, and with each offense, it grows. So my therapist used to say, that bitterness is like a cut. So the first time you get a cut, it can heal pretty quick, right? But the second, third, fourth time it hits the exact same space, that cut now runs deeper. Bitterness is much the same. Each time someone hurts us using the same pattern in a similar scenario or leaves us with the same feeling, it drives that bitterness or resentment down deeper. And so here's some questions for reflection in your life. What bitterness has been simmering slowly that you can think of? And I'm sure there's some people, places you've been recently that you've left just not feeling so great. And maybe things in some people have triggered you more than they should. And that might be connected to another similar pattern with someone you're closer to in your life, like a parent or like a friend that you've known for a lifetime, right? And so kind of recognizing those patterns when things like that bitterness creeps in and it's a seemingly surface situation, it might be connected to something else, but it might be a similar pattern. So when did it start? I mean, that's really what we were talking about, right? What's the root? And this is where we want to use the 5 whys that we talk about a lot to peel back the layers of the onion and identify the original root of this wound, of this, whatever this hurt, this pain is. Where does it come from? Where did it start? So even as you're looking back at your childhood, things of that nature, try to identify, where did I first feel this way? When did this first happen? And how has this continued to be a theme in my life that is causing me to feel bitter at this point? And the great part is then you can rip it up. You can uproot the weed and you can throw it out. Once you know where it comes from, it makes it a lot easier to be able to find it and uproot it. What is it costing me to hang on to bitterness? So I've been talking a lot about the rocks in our proverbial backpack, right? And every time we experience something throughout our days, we're picking up another rock and it's weighing down our backpack that we're wearing. And each time we let go or release forgiveness, anger, bitterness, like we process these things and we let them go, we're able to take those rocks out and get freer to be able to run in our lane. So what will you gain by releasing it? You'll gain freedom. You'll gain more time. You'll gain more space in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit, and all these things as you interact with people throughout the day. The impact of this work is huge. Where can I find a safe place to release some of your bitterness? So this is really key too. Thinking about the spaces. Sometimes maybe that's only your car by yourself, yelling in your car, talking to yourself, getting it out, right? But in other situations, there are people around you that might come to mind that are safe people to talk to about the situation. And I would just encourage you, if you have those people, to be able to do that, to be able to, hey, can we just go on a walk, or can we just grab some coffee? Just want to talk through something. Can you help me like reason through this, you know? And I think in different scenarios, we might find that different people come to mind for things that are a safe space. So not any one person can be a safe place for every single thing we go through in our life. And at different seasons, we'll have different people come in and out of our life too, that are those safe spaces. And that's the great thing just about life in general, that we're going to have people that that will be closer to in some seasons than in others, depending on what we're going through and what we're processing. So I would just encourage you to figure out where bitterness is in your life, like where it's creeping in or where you find it popping up, and what pattern of anger, like think about that cut. What happened? What keeps happening over and over again? Like what pattern that's triggering that bitterness? Where did it first come from? And then once you figure out where it first came from, then you can start to deal with the root of the issue and hopefully get freer to be able to run your race. So thanks so much for listening in. We will drop some links in the show notes. And as always, if you want more, head to www.storywork.co.